Hello, in this lesson I'll tell you about one of the most important constructions of the C++ language, the if statement. Thanks to it, you'll be able to analyze various conditions and take certain actions. Conditions in programming are a rather important fundamental component. In life, you analyze conditions all the time. For example, here is a condition. Did I get enough sleep? If yes, then you perform certain actions. For example, then I get out of bed. If not, then you continue to sleep. This was a condition with two options for events. There are conditions with one option for events. For example, do I have extra money? If yes, you go buy something. If no, you do nothing. And there are conditions with multiple options for events. For example, the condition, do I want to drink coffee? If yes, you drink. If no, you ask yourself the question, do I want to drink tea? If yes, you drink. After that, you can also ask yourself, do I want to drink juice? If yes, you drink. But if you answer no to all the questions, then you can do nothing or do something, for example, leave the restaurant. In programming, you also have to analyze conditions and write code that will be executed depending on the condition. Today, I'm going to teach you how to do this. In order to analyze conditions, the C++ language has several constructions: if, switch, ternary operator, and loops. We will start with the if statement. The syntax for using it is as follows. You write the word if, then open parentheses, then write the condition itself. You learned how to write conditions in the two previous lessons. Then close parentheses and write statement. Any command that ends with a semicolon is called a statement. You write such commands all the time. Let's see how the if statement works here. You have some code that is above your if statement. It's quietly executed, after which the program reaches our if. Then the condition is checked. If its result is positive, that is true, then the body of the if statement is executed, after which the program executes all the following commands that aren't related to if. But if the condition is false, then the program simply skips the body of the if statement and executes the following commands. Everything is very simple. Let's look at some examples of using the if statement. In the first example, I ask the user to enter their age. They enter it, and then I check if they entered a negative or zero value. If so, I print out that their number must be a positive number. After that, I print out their age. If the user enters a positive number, we won't see the command that's written in the if statement, because the condition will be false. But if they enter a negative number, we will. Notice a few things. First, the command cout your age is age will be executed in any case, because it doesn't belong to the if statement. Second, notice that after the if there is an indent. Indentation makes the code more understandable, and you understand that this command belongs to the if statement. If I remove the indentation, nothing changes for the compiler, it doesn't care. But for us as programmers, the code is harder to read. Let's look at the second example. Here, the user has to enter a number from 0 to 10. We've given him a range at the beginning here. Then we check in the if statement whether he entered a number less than 0 or more than 10. If so, we go inside the if statement. Here we tell him he made a mistake and give him another chance to enter the correct number. He enters it and we check it again. If the user entered the wrong number again, we display the appropriate message. This example shows you that you can write other if statements inside the if statement. The third example shows you that you can use any expression in the if statement, not necessarily a bool expression. In the first two cases, I wrote bool literals. Obviously, the first if statement will always be true and the second will not. The third if statement shows that you can write numbers and any expressions inside as long as they can be converted to the bool type. As I said before, any number that's not equal to 0 is converted to the value true, and 0 to the value false. In the fourth example, I create several variables inside the if. This can be done, but you should know that the variables that are created inside the if statement cease to exist after the program exits this if statement. That is, these variables no longer exist here. Let's talk about the curly braces of the if statement. If you have one command inside the if that is one line that ends with a semicolon, then you don't have to put this command inside the curly braces. For example, here I didn't write them, but if you need to have two or more commands in your if statement, you should write them in curly braces, as I did here and here, for example. Let's continue. You may notice that in our examples, if the if statement gives a false condition result, we do nothing. That is, we only wrote what to do in case of truth, but not falsehood. Sometimes this is what you need to do, ignore the false condition result. But there are situations when you don't need to. In this case, we have the else keyword, which is written after the if statement body. It executes commands if the if statement condition is false. Look at the syntax. It's pretty simple. If the condition is true, this block of commands is executed. If false, this one. In the first example, the user enters the weight of the product. If the weight is greater than 0, then it's correct and we see a message that it needs to be paid for. But if the condition is false, that is, the weight is 0 or less, then we see a message that the weight is incorrect. If you remove the else statement part, then if an incorrect number is entered, the user won't see any message. In the second example, I show that you can use curly braces in the else statement as well. If you have one command in the body of an if statement or else statement, then you don't have to write it in curly braces, but you can if you find it easier to read the code. Sometimes there are situations when there may be more conditions than just true and false. There may be several or many of them, and a certain action must be performed for each one. To do this, it's possible to create a chain of if statements. The syntax is in front of you. They work as follows. First, the first condition is checked. If it's true, then the commands that relate to the first if statement are executed. All other commands that are inside other if statements won't be executed. I'll tell you more. If the condition of the first if statement is true, then the conditions of other if statements won't even be checked to speed up the program. But if the condition of the first if statement is false, then the condition of the second is checked. If it's true, the commands of this if statement are executed, all conditions below in the chain won't even be checked, and so on, until we reach either the last else if statement or the else statement if you added one. Let's look at an example. In it, the user enters their age. The program analyzes this number and gives different messages. If the age is between 1 year and 17 years old, then this is still a child. If from 18 to 60, then an adult. If from 60 to 120, then an old person. If more than 120, then most likely a dead person. The else statement will only work if other if statements don't work, that is, when the age is 0 or a negative number. In one way or another, two conditions cannot work, only one. You can remove all the words else in the if statements, but in this case, if the condition above is false, then the condition below will still be checked. In other words, all conditions will be checked, and this will take more time for the computer, so be careful. This concludes the theory. We've covered the first conditional statement, if. Now you can write much more interesting programs. For example, you can check the values entered by the user for correctness. You can also analyze these values and output different information. For example, you can write a temperature conversion program by asking the user what format he wants to enter the temperature in, and he enters the number 1, 2, or 3, for example, which denote Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. After that, you analyze this number and output different temperatures. In fact, there can be a lot of examples. In the practical lesson, which is only available to sponsors of this channel, I wrote a huge bunch of tasks on using this conditional statement. This is a fundamental thing in programming, and you should be able to work with it. I also want to say that in future lessons, we'll return to the if statement and I'll tell you more about it. This concludes this tutorial. Thank you for watching. I hope I was able to help you master the C++ language. If you want to thank me for my work, you can like this video, write a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, become a sponsor of the channel to get access to practical lessons, or donate me using the link in the description. All these actions popularize my channel and motivate me to continue recording lessons for you. Goodbye.